Hi, my name is Wisdom Agoja. The first time I've mentioned my name here, I'm in South Africa. Today, I'm a Zulu man. Yes, wearing your crown. This crown, if you wear it, nobody can wear it. It's me alone. If I come to Ghana, you try me, you fall down. Welcome to the show once again. I've met a young man, yes, a young adult, who is a communication expert. He has written so many books, and it's about the African. I'm in South Africa, I'm talking about Africa. Join us in this conversation. We're going to talk about the mindset of an African, why we are not getting to where we're supposed to get to. Throughout the world, the people who have rich culture is African, but why are we going the way we are going? The man has a lot of info for you. There's so much here. We'll talk about religion and politics. We'll talk so much today. So please don't go away. Join me as I take a simple break and come back. This is Mysteries. Remember to subscribe and join the conversation. He's KABALA. I'll be right back. Welcome, great man.
Thank you.
As I could see you wearing ACUP. What is that?
So this is the African Continental Unity Party.
Whoa. My name is Nyansa. I'm happy I'm with you today.
I'm happy
all
too.
The way from Ghana, and I've joined you today.
Yeah.
You carry so much. I've watched you online. I've watched quite a number of the things you do. I've read some of your books, and today we are here to catch you live on this platform. Charlie, the man is fully loaded. There is so much you learned today. You're welcome. Are you a politician?
Yes, I just as any young African man who is conscious about the situation of Africa must be involved in politics.
Okay.
Because there's no other way we have to change our situation if we don't get involved in politics. You see, people want to think that getting a good job is a way of changing the narrative in Africa.
Okay.
But I believe that we cannot change Africa with having a good job, having a good salary, having good roads, having tall buildings and stuff like that. The only way we have to change Africa is if we seize the structure that dictates the law and the regulation that determine who get what salary, who does what job, who get what house and stuff like that. And that is political means through which people determine the policies and the regulation that govern the country. So we as young African people, if we are curious about the future of Africa, we must all be involved in the politics of our liberation.
Whoa.
Otherwise, we have to enjoy the politics of our oppression.
So what kind of politics are you into? Is it just normal political parties, people joining and amassing wealth, or what kind of politics are you talking about here?
I look at myself as a revolutionary pan-Africanist. My political line is pan-Africanism, because that is a political ideology which fits to solve our problem as African people. That's the line in which I do my politics.
Wow. Your name is KABALA. What's the meaning?
KABALA, it means two things. The first thing, it means the 6th month of every year, June.
Oh, June. June is KABALA. Okay,
yeah. In other words, it also means the new moon. You know,
the new moon.
Exactly.
Okay. When the moon begins more like that.
That's what we call KABALA, and we celebrate.
Why do you do this celebration?
Well,
most African countries don't celebrate this.
Yeah, of course. You know, the world or the human civilization as it started. It started actually with the understanding of the sky, of what is happening up there.
Okay.
So for some reasons, our ancestors found that the sun has a significance in the human's life.
Okay.
Some of them also found that the moon has a significance in the human's life.
Okay.
And that's reason why actually even when we go back as African people, we see that the God that our ancestors worshipped was symbolized by the sun. Not because we were worshipping the sun, but because we looked at the uniqueness of the sun as being also the life giver. When the sun goes away, within 2 weeks, obviously, there's no possibility to see life on Earth. There's, the water freezes and there's nothing that grows. So they look at the uniqueness of the sun. They looked at, okay, this should be the reflection of God. So the same thing with the stars, the same thing with the moon. So a lot of things in the sky had significant meaning in the ancestry kind of understanding of the world and stuff like that. So I don't know exactly why we celebrate, but I think it's something that can be dated back long time before we know the current world as we see it today.
Wow. Your field as a communicator, how do you fix this into politics?
Well, I think politics itself is about communication. I mean, the world is about communication. The human society is about communication. And this is one of the things that differentiate human beings from animals, because we have the capability of speaking and communicating. And from communication, we are able to build a human society. So whether we do politics or not, we need to be able to talk and to communicate. So myself, being obviously passionate about communicating, getting a message across, so I just find myself very fit to do politics by using my talent as a communicator.
KABALA, let's start. Is Africa ready for this journey? How do you see Africa today in the area of politics? I'll come to religion in that aspect. We were told that the whites came to colonize us, and through that they came and trade with us. They took over our lands. Our fathers fought for independence. Now we feel that we are independent. But then, as Nkrumah said, new colonialism is has still taken over us, because we still think that without a white man, we can't survive. Tell us, is Africa ready?
Well, I think our forefathers, when you talk about the generation of Nkrumah, Nyerere, Lumumba, Thomas Sankara, I think at that time we were more ready than we are today.
Oh,
yeah, definitely. Because when you look at today's generation, you will see that we are the true slaves than our forefathers. Because the reality is, a slave is a person who does something willingly. I don't know if do you understand what I'm saying. He does things willingly to please his master. Now, when you compare the reality of today and the reality of our fathers, you will see that they were not slaves. Even though we call them the colonized people, we think that they are the ones who were enslaved. In reality, they were prisoners of war.
They were rather prisoners of war than slaves. But today, we are slaves.
Exactly. Because the prisoner of war is the one who resists, is being forced to do things. Understand? Yeah. They were being forced to work, to produce for the Western society. They were being forced to be captured as slaves. So they were prisoners, rather? They were prisoners of war. Because remember, they were fighting. When we talk about Ashanti War, we're just discussing about it. It was a war of resistance. When we talk about the war in the Congo, we talk about the war in Kenya, Mau Mau. These people were resistant, were fighting. But today, we don't do resistance. We are rather obedient. Go and beg. Exactly. So I look at our generation as a generation of slaves. And the reason why we don't understand it is because when you have a child who is born in a prison, let's say a mother is taken to prison, right, for whatever reason, and she gives birth to a child in that prison, a child will just grow up playing like any normal child, smiling and doing all funny things that children do, even though it's in prison. Okay. Because it doesn't understand what it takes to be prison. Exactly. And because also it doesn't know what is the value of freedom. Okay. Maybe the mother will be looking to be free, will be trying everything she can do to become free, because she knows the value of freedom. Exactly, because freedom was taken away from her. But we currently, we don't understand we are prisoners of war, because, we don't understand that we are slaves because we are born in a system and we are being trained by the inertia of the system. So it's different to look otherwise. That's why I'm saying that we are not exactly ready today as our fathers were. And I used to say that Africa can change tomorrow. It can change in 5 years, can change in 10 or 100 years. And there is also a possibility that Africa may not change, because it depends on one thing. And that thing is when we begin to understand our conditions and then do for ourselves what other people have been pretending to do for us. That is the beginning of the freedom that you're talking about. You've really hit something, that if we begin to do for ourselves what we are expecting others to do for us, the reason why we are humbling ourselves for them, coming down to them, begging them to give us loans and all that. Can you take us deep into that area? What are we supposed to do for ourselves that we are not doing? Well, the first thing that we need to do for ourselves is to build our power base. When you look in the world today, every group of people or any race of people is longing for power. The Chinese, they want to build their power base. It means the Chinese people, in whatever they do, they want to become the superpower of the world. It means they want to conquer the world, they want to control the resources of the world, and they want to become the ones who define the paradigm of the future. Americans have been the superpower of the world for about 2 centuries now. The French, Germany, Russians, every group of people, even the Arabs, they are longing for one thing, to becoming the superpower or the global power of the world. So the question is, us as African people, what are we longing for? And when you look closely, you will see that the only thing that we are fighting for is to make ourselves into a good little British, good little French, and good little Portuguese, depending on who colonized you. So everything that we want to do is to become like other people, not to become ourselves, to look at ourselves in the center of the world paradigm, dictating what is the future of the world, even though we have what it takes to make that decision, to make those decisions, or to make that reality happening. We are running behind other people. We are running behind the theories developed by other people.
So we are still living in the same concept as Nkrumah said, that we are still controlled in terms of our mindset, right? So when it comes to controlling of the mind, as far as you said, our fathers were slaves, our fathers were forced to be prisoners instead of them being slaves, and now currently we are more slaves because we parade ourselves in front of the white man, trying to be like them. And you mentioned that the young ones now, you want to become a young British boy, instead of becoming who he's supposed to be as a strong African guy, he's learning to just wear that white tie and he's getting a white collar job. What is the paradigm? What can shift this?
Well, the paradigm, I think the first the condition is what we call the post-syndrome slavery. You see, it has been 400 years, actually not 400 years. If we look at it realistically, we're still in slavery, then we can say it has been more than 500 years, right? That we are being conditioned consistently to produce exactly the results that we are producing today as African people. Yes.
So the mindset of the African is being conditioned to, from childhood, being conditioned to think or to act this way, right?
Exactly. That's why I said that we are people who are born in a prison cell. And the dream that you can have in a prison cell is to becoming like a prison ward. Nothing else, because you don't know the world outside there. Your ideal is to become a prison ward. Now, in this context, becoming a prison ward is to become a leader who controls now the group of prisoners. Now, if you want to understand this better, you have to look at it from this perspective. I don't know if you have to deal with the chicken. I have dealt with a chicken. So what happens is that when you have a chicken will know your house, will go and eat by itself, and in the evening come back. Now, if you have a new chicken, if you bring it today in your house and you release the chicken, it will go, but it will never come back.
He will not find his way back home.
Yes, because it does not know that house. Now, what you need to do, you have to condition that chicken, right?
I get it.
And for you to condition the chicken, you have to tie the chicken to a rope and somewhere around there for a couple of days. Give it food. In the morning, give it some grains in the morning, and evening, tie it. After 4 days, you can release the chicken. I bet you the chicken will go in the evening to come back at the same house where it was held captive. This is the condition which we are today.
What are you trying to say?
Exactly the situation of African people today.
Tell us, explain that for us.
We have been for the past centuries, and we are still, right, in the condition where we had to look to a white man as the ideal image of God, ideal image of human being, because as African people we're called degeneration. It means a substance between a human being and animal. That's what we were called. That's how we were qualified, right? So being reduced to that level of animal, the ideal picture was to see a white man as the ideal image of human being, what we need to become. You understand? So even if we get loosened, like chicken get released, we are still conditioned psychologically to think that the white man is the only one who can give us solution, is the only one through whom we can go to God, is the only one who can bring us modernization. And when you look at it in our contemporary lives, you will see that for us to give any idea value, there must be a white color in that idea. If an idea comes from a black person, it doesn't get much credibility until there's a white approval of that idea.
So more of COVID. Africans generated vaccines, but they have to still send it back to World Health Organization to determine if it is valid or not.
Exactly.
I get it.
Look at our leaders. When they want to get the power, before even the campaign, do you know where they run to?
No.
They go to Washington, they go to Paris, they go to... Why do they go to do there if we, the people, we are the one who are electing them? So it means we are still seeking the approval.
They create alliances
exactly.
to the outside world.
Exactly. Not even alliances, they want approval. And that's the reason why when they come into power, they do everything to be marked as good leaders who are democratic leaders, even though their population are suffering, languishing in poverty. Now, let me break down the condition or the phases, 3 phases of slavery or colonialism, so that we understand what we are going through today. The first phase was the phase of physical colonialism.
Okay.
Or slavery.
Okay.
And that is where we have black people being sold and bought like animals, branded like animals. You know, that's the time that black people were ripped out of Africa to go to the New World to build the Western civilization, stuff like that.
I get it.
Apart from that, we had another phase of slavery that was called now colonialism. There's no difference between slavery and colonialism. The only difference is that colonialism is the most sophisticated, form of slavery.
Okay.
So now, in this
more improved form.
Improved, exactly. Because, the challenge was during the physical slavery, slaves were always rebelling. They would always protest rebellions. You can remember the Haiti revolution.
Yes.
So those kind of stuff were becoming kind of costly to the white society to control the masses of slaves. So they had to come up with a new model, more sophisticated, which is now colonialism. You must remember, when the slavery was ended, or what we call the end of slavery or declaration of emancipation of slaves, automatically there was a new system implemented, which was colonialism, on the continent of Africa.
So they began to look for countries to colonize them.
And that was now slavery, now based not on physical condition of making black people to work to produce the economy. It was now on exploitation of black people's land. They had to come to Africa to exploit our resources by using us still, so that they can build the Western world. And now, when this phase also became kind of saturated, they had to change the system or the strategy. They came up with what we as African people talk or call independence, but they themselves, they call it neo-colonialism. When we say neo-colonialism, it simply means new form of colonialism. Now, this neo-colonialism is now in the mindset now. You see the phase. The first phase was physical condition of forcing people to do things.
Okay.
The second phase was economic, exploiting their lands, exploiting their resources. Now the third, which I call absolute conquest of Africa, is the mind. Because as Steve Bantu Biko said, the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. So if they can control your mind, they control everything else about your life.
Now they brought hospitals, they brought schools. You mentioned education as one of the bedrock of development in Africa. So if they brought education to us, we are reading, we are learning, we're going to schools, universities, becoming graduates and all that. Are they not helping? Are the systems not helping us?
Well, the system is not designed to help African people.
Okay.
Dr. John Henry Clark told us that there's nothing that the white man brought or will ever bring to you that is meant to develop you or to help you. Everything they bring to you is to facilitate their own domination over you. So when we talk about education, you must firstly investigate the content of the education.
Okay.
The education based, from its roots meaning, the root meaning of the words education, it's edico, which is Latin word, which means educe. Educe means to develop from within, right? That means to develop the talents, the skills that we are born with, because we are both, we are all created with specific skills, talents that we can put forth in contribution to the human society. But the education that have been brought to us does not develop what is within you.
Take your time and explain education from an analogy you're doing so that we understand. So if you go to the etymology of that word, it's trying to tell you building or helping what is within,
from within, exactly,
for the person to understand who he is, so that he can be very useful to society, right?
Society.
Okay, so what about the new one you mentioned?
Now, this new education is not about developing what comes from you to contribute to the society. This is about depositing something in you, like a banking system. And what they deposit in you is only the skills of, if you are a mechanic, to know how to maneuver the machines. If you are, for example, an engineer, those who call themselves engineer, is about to interpret the design, or to how can I put it?
So you might have you have something in you that is needed to be on earth, right? To bring out, but they ignore that. They decide what you have to become.
Exactly, so that you can become
so they can control you.
Yeah.
Tell you go here and do. Is that what you mean?
Exactly. So mostly it's about you becoming a productive piece in the capitalist industry. You must understand that the educational system, most of schools and universities and their curriculums are being funded and developed by most of capitalist industries in the world. And they fund educational system for a sole purpose of producing workers who can now, obviously, even further develop more the capitalist industry. You understand? While the education itself from the beginning was not meant to deposit in people as you are depositing in the banking system, whereby people are passive or considered as a passive actors in that process of education, whereby you just come with any notions, you put in them. Okay, we are teaching you about Christopher Columbus. Christopher Columbus is a liberator of America. What is that going to do with me as an African person?
Okay.
Right? There are 4 important objectives that any education must achieve in people.
Talk to us.
Number 1, education must teach you about yourself.
Education must teach you about yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
As Dr. Joe James, I think I'm calling his name right, the one who wrote a book about stolen legacy. He said the first thing that we need to teach to every people is about their own contribution to the human civilization. And the second thing is to teach them about other people. Now, coming back now to the point about the education, the first thing that education must teach you is about yourself.
Yourself.
Yeah, who you are, where you come from, right? And the second thing that education must teach you is your environment.
So you must first know about yourself, who you are, your contribution, where you're coming from, what are you supposed to do, what can I do to help people. So you
100%.
Okay.
What are the skills that you have? What are the power that you have? What are
what can I do?
What exactly
is within me?
That is what education must reveal yourself to yourself. Must help you to be, to reveal yourself to yourself. You must understand who you are as a person. That's the first thing that education must teach you. The second thing that education must teach you is about your environment.
Your environment.
Exactly, because when you look everything that we do, we depend on the environment. We eat food from environment. We breathe from the environment. The economy that we have is developed from the environment. So the education must be able to teach you where you are, the things that are around you, because it's through those things that you'll be able to build civilization, survive, as you said. The number three thing that education must provide for you is now the means that you will have to use in order to affect the environment. You see, knowing about the environment is fine.
The knowledge you need to be able to use this environment to come back and support yourself.
100%. Education must teach you the economy of your own environment. They don't have to teach us about the economy of America, of China, while we live in
the values of our gold here, the values of the
Exactly.
orange around
and
us.
how to use that gold.
Okay, how to use that gold.
Yeah.
If people are drinking more fruit juice in South Africa,
Exactly.
how do we grow more plant that can turn into fruit juice? These are the things you're
100%.
talking about. So we learn to be able to transform these things.
Exactly. You see, the challenge that we have today, before I proceed with the fourth point, is when you see I wouldn't say even every, but majority of young African people, especially youngest one, when you ask them, where do you want to be in the 5 years? Most of them, they will tell, I want to be in New York. I want to be in America. I want to be in England. You know the reason why they tell you that?
No.
Is because mostly we have gone through an educational system that teaches us to see our land as dust. Right? And when you see that your land is dust, you're never going to imagine that there are beautiful things that can come out of this land. And on the other hand, you see iPhones, cell phones, beautiful things coming from China, from America. Therefore, your dreams, especially when you look on television, beautiful women, nice buildings in America, in France, your dreams are now to go to America where the beautiful things are. While those beautiful things that you see are actually the transformation of your own land, the one that you consider as a dust. You know, this is because we don't have education that teaches the value of our land and how to transform our land into things that we want.
Okay.
So this should be the number 3 thing that education.
So it helps you to understand your environment and
Yeah.
how to be able to process your environment for economic reasons, right?
Exactly, to
All right.
create what you need.
Okay.
And the last point that education must teach you is how to socialize with your fellow countrymen or your fellow citizens, because we are a part of a group. We are part of a community, and as a human being, we are born with a desire to be part of a community. That is why our ancestors understood it and called it Ubuntu. Means we are meant to be living together. In the Western society, there's more emphasis on individualism. But in African world, from our ancestry, we have more emphasis on communalism. Doing things together, cooperating together, living together.
That is why people were fighting apartheid.
Exactly.
You stay apart, let's be somewhere.
100%.
Okay.
Them is about individual
We
rights.
don't believe, Africans don't believe that principle. We
No.
live together in a home, everything is
Together, exactly.
communion.
That is why in African world, there was no word to describe an orphan, because every parent is responsible for every child. And even if the parent die, the king or the ruler will be the father or the mother of the children of the orphan. We didn't have a words for old people's house. We don't have those words because we never throw away the parents or grandparents and stuff like this. So when you look at the culture of European, it's all about individualism. So it means they can destroy the whole community to serve one single person. That's the reason why they come with their minings and industries in a whole village. Destroy all those villages, destroy the livelihoods of those people, destroy the nature, the environments on which those people depended on in order to make one capitalist person successful in his business or in his mining.
Let me ask this question. The 4 things you've mentioned, 4 or 5 things you've mentioned about education. The first one you mentioned, knowing yourself.
Yeah.
The second one, knowing
your environment.
The next one, understand how to use the environment.
Yeah.
And the next one being how to socialize with people.
Exactly.
Is this not embedded in our education, the current education we're having? Are these things not embedded there?
No, I don't think so.
Why?
The first thing that you see in education is that when there's exams, for example, when you study, the exam period, are we collaboratively working to succeed as a team, or you working individually to succeed?
We cover like that.
That's the point.
I don't want you to steal my thing.
Exactly. Or so you understand everything,
Okay.
right?
So
it's about
But it teaches us about science. It teaches us about to understand if you add this one, it will be this. So are those not important in our curriculum?
Well, they are important, but we look at the premise of everything.
Okay.
You see, mathematics functions according to a particular philosophy that governs the society. Economy functions according to a particular philosophy that governs the society, right? Any science must be embedded in the philosophy that governs the society. I'm going to give you one example.
All right.
Every nation has to respond to this one question whenever the nation is about to be formed. They have one important question that they have to respond to. And that question is, who must control the resources of the land? and who must determine the means of production and distribution of those resources. And there are only two ways you can answer to that question. One way is the collective must control all the people, right, who belong in that society, like Ghanaians people or South African people, must control all the resources of the land and must be able to determine the means of production and the means of distribution of all the resources because they are living there, right? The other way to respond to that question is the minority, few people only, like 13% of people, like in South Africa, must be able to control the resources of the land and to determine the means of production and distribution of the resources. And these two ways are basic philosophies that over which we base our mathematics. We do mathematics to respond to this philosophy. When we decide, okay, the majority must control our mathematics, our science, our physics, everything else that we study will respond to this basic philosophy or premise, right? So that's why I'm saying studying mathematics is fine, but what is the premise of us as a people in a society?
So education is very, very key, right? What system do you think, as a young African who is wishing that Africa will go back to who we are and to take over the political systems and make sure that we're doing the right thing to help the society, what kind of education system are we likely to employ to be able to change this paradigm?
I think we need to come up with a revolutionary educational system that firstly teach the 4 or 5 basic principles that I've just outlined. That education must firstly teach every young African person, male or female, to know who he is and where he comes from. It's very important. As Sheikh Anta Diop told us, that we cannot go further in African studies if we don't base those studies on Kemet or on Ethiopia or on Nubia. The same way that
so we should go back to history and know who we are and understand this, to know where we are coming from, know who we are as people, what is inside. Is that what you mean?
Exactly, because you know the history is like a map of human being. As Dr. John Henry Clark said, it's a history is like a clock, is a compass that people use to find themselves on the map of human geography. History tells you who you were, tells you who you are, and tells you who you are supposed to become tomorrow. And the relationship between history and the people is the same relationship between a mother and a child. So there's no way for you to make sense of your identity if you don't know, first of all, where you come from. Because now other people, what they have to tell us, they will tell us that we're coming from monkey. They will tell us that we're coming from baboons, right? And you, by understanding or accumulating these false assumptions or false notions, you cannot think beyond the paradigm that is being imposed onto you. Unless you go back to your history and you see that you're in your blood.
You've been lied to.
Exactly.
Have the feel that no, after this history, it means all these things they've been saying to me are lies.
Exactly.
Oh. I'll be right back after this break. Welcome back. This is getting really interesting. So education is not what you think or you've been through, but then today we are teaching about what really education is. KABALA, tell me, you were talking about education based on 4 principles: knowing yourself, knowing your environment, how to apply knowledge in the environment, how useful this can be to other people, how to relate. So if you have to do with education in Africa, what will you propose as Africans, as young man trying to change the narrative? What will you say? That the old one is not good, but we should start a new one. Which one will you prefer?
I think we need to get rid of an educational system that puts people against each other. Education system that promotes more competition above collaboration, you see. But before even we get to that point, I think education should firstly teach African child about who he is. When you see in the education that we have currently is teaching us more of Socrates, Plato. If I ask you, do you know Plato? It's easy for you to say you know
Yeah,
Plato
I know
because
him.
you know it. But if I ask you, do you know who is Imhotep, for example? You would think twice. Imhotep, who is that? But this is your ancestor, the one even to whom Plato was a child, or Thales, the first so-called Greek philosopher, was a child. To Imhotep was a child. To Ptahotep. These are our ancestors. These are the pyramid builders, and in our blood flow the genes of these people, but we don't know them. And how do you expect a child, an African child, who has never known his ancestors as a pyramid builders, as civilizational creator, to be a person that have that confidence to look in the world as it is today and think beyond the current setup, and to think that he's able to recreate a new paradigm that will change his reality?
But he doesn't understand himself.
That's the point. So
So how do we do this? I want us to be more practical. How do we fuse this into our system? Because the education has a syllabus that it works with. And you're saying this one has been injected with so many errors that is not helping the African to identify himself, to know the powers we have. So tell me, how can we do this? How can we change this?
the major change is the whole system, first of all. You see, I think we need to redesign the system to make education not just as a means of economic production, so to say. Because when you say today, education currently is not about educating people, because Marcus Garvey said that education is about the preparation of a future generation. We educate the future generation so that they can take off from where we live
Okay.
and continue the work that we are doing. Why do we want those people to pay so much money for something that we want to do for the good of us as a people? I don't know if you understand what I'm saying.
I'm getting it. So our children, you're not supposed to pay money, but we are training them to take over from us, right? So
Exactly.
if we need them, why must we spend so much on it?
That education contributes to the whole society. So the society had to take care of the education of the teachers and stuff like that, but we don't have to. Look in America, for example, there are people who finish school today and spend 20 years of their lives paying off education, the credits that they took in order to go to college. Is that education based on making money over the poor students and their family, or is about really making sure that we are preparing the future with the next generation to take over?
I give you a small boy who is a year old, like your daughter, this young girl, to educate her outside of the current education system. Who will be your principal?
Well, now you see, now we're talking about the system. When you talk about the system, you don't see one person. System is a combination of different things working together to achieve a common goal. So, educational itself as a system, we need to look at different things. There's no way that you will educate one single African child to become different in a world where people are acting in a different way. It's gonna be frustrating.
odd.
Exactly. So it's better we take a group of people and bring them up in a different educational system. Let me give an example. Look today in the way we have organized our political system, for example. The people that we elect, they are supposed to work together. But when you see, we need to ask ourselves the question, where did they go to training in order to work together as a team? You see, today we have a World Cup going on as we're speaking now. Prior to the World Cup, we had a teams spending time together, all the players spending time together, training in order to understand what type of game they can bring to the World Cup. So these people, by spending time together, they got to know each other. This one is playing number 7.
So they must play as a team.
Exactly. This one's playing number 4. This one's playing number 3. They spend time together. They know each other. They know the game. And when they go there, they have already in their mind what kind of game they are going to implement in order to
But they're
win.
going to wear the same jersey.
Exactly. So now look in our government. We have a government where we have also a team, supposed to be a team of the Minister of Finance, Minister of Education, Minister of of Economy, Minister of Agriculture, and all these things. When did they go to training in order to come there with the common projects that will take our country to the next level. That's why I'm talking about an educational system. We need to prepare the future generation. We need to think about Ghana. Let's see, today we are in 2023. What do we want Ghana to be in 2020, 2030, for instance? And when we decide we want Ghana to become this or that in 2030, the question is, what team do we have in place
To do that.
to do that? That's where the education, because education must be applied to your situation to solve your situation.
So aside education, I'm looking at politics. Before I come to religion, politics. You're a young, vibrant African who is seeking for change because you have read so much, you have learned so much, you think that things are not right, you want things to change. Let me start with politics. Our political system, which is our traditional political system, which was already established that our fathers were using, and the current political system. Tell me, what is the line between, if you just suppose those two, is it helping Africa to grow?
No, I don't think that the politics or political system that we have today, sometimes we mistakenly call it our political system, but I think in reality it is a colonial political system.
Okay.
It's not meant to make us any good. It's only there to control us in colonial enclosures where we are already, which we call countries, so that the Western world can keep on benefiting as it is from the resources of Africa, or from everything for that, as far as that matter is concerned. Now, let's look closely at the contradiction of the current political system that we call democracy. It is defined as the rule of the people, or the rule of the majority. But when you look at it, the first contradiction, there are quite few numbers of contradictions that I can outline about this political system.
The democracy?
Yeah, democratic system.
Okay.
The first contradiction, before even I get to the first contradiction, there's something that I need to mention about the United States. At the end of the Second World War, right, there was the Americans, policy makers, they gathered together through what is called the Council on Foreign Relation. So the aim was to come up with a policy on environment that is called, or on the area that they call the Grand Area. Grand Area is, you're talking about Africa and some countries in Asia and Arabic countries as well. So the policy they adopted when it comes to Grand Area is that we need to make sure that in particular Africa is only, the sole objective of Africa is to become a basket for the resources, natural resources that will have to develop America.
So the raw materials must come from Africa.
Africa, exactly. And the second role that Africa must play is to become a market for the products produced in the West, particularly in America. So it means us as African people, our role is to buy, to be the buyers of their products, and our resources must build their countries.
Okay.
And to accomplish this, they said something very, very important. There was one person, one key person, I think his name was Allen. I forgot his surname. He said that we must make sure that we get rid, or we destabilize any tendency that rely on vague words like democracy or fair wear, or the justice for the people, stuff like that. But the most important point was democracy or democratization. These are vague terms according to that American representative. So coming back to the first contradiction, this was to just show you that sometimes the media say things that those who pull the strings, you're behind the curtain in this world, they don't believe in those things, such as democracy, freedom, rule of law. These are the things that don't have specific meaning.
So they sat down and planned what they want to do as a team.
Exactly.
And decided what they needed from Africa and how they want to rule Africa
100%.
through their systems. So there was a system in place
to
champion this particular cause. And they make us raw material producers, right?
Yeah. And
How
the
did
market
they
for the
achieve
products.
that?
They're achieving it very well every day.
How did they achieve that? From
Because
that time?
they've achieved it through some important institutions that we can call the Bretton Woods institution,
Oh, okay, the World Health Organization,
the World Bank,
Bank,
IMF,
okay,
and most importantly, the World
Trade
Organization, because that is the one who determine the price of African commodities. It's one thing for you
so
to have.
Africans don't have the right to determine how much they are
we don't
selling
fix the
their
price.
raw material.
No, it's the World Trade Organization that fix the price of gold of Ghana should be sold at this price. The oil of Nigeria must be sold at this price. The diamonds of I don't know, South Africa, Congo must be sold at this price.
So who signed to that?
Who
Who agreed to this? I want to understand. Say, who agreed to this? That hey, we've agreed that any price you give us, we will buy, we will sell it.
Well, that's a problem. You don't have to agree. You have to comply, because when you don't comply, you know what happened to Thomas Sankara. When you don't comply, you know what happened to Kwame Nkrumah. When you don't comply, you know what happened to Laurent Desire Kabila. These are the people who said, no, we don't agree with this. For instance, that guy, Laurent Desire Kabila of the Congo, he said, okay, I'm going to develop this country with agriculture alone. I will make a stop to the mining production. As soon as he said that, there was a rebellion movement, which is still there in the Congo up until now, and eventually it got killed.
So the people within who create that system to fight the person who is trying to do the right thing?
No, people didn't create that. The West itself.
How did they do that?
Through various means. Thomas Sankara was killed, everyone knows. Kwame Nkrumah was overthrown by CIA, everyone knows. So they have agency. America, France, Germany, these are the imperial powers that try to control the world by all means necessary. Whether you are democratic or not democratic, you need to be able to make sure that America reaps its benefits from Africa. The moment that you interfere from that channel of the benefits that flows from Africa to America, you become a threat. You know, so they will talk about dictators or non-democratic leaders, but we need to ask ourselves questions. There are leaders in Africa who have been in power for more than 40 years. You can talk about the president of Congo Brazzaville has been in power for a long time. They've never touched him. Why? Because he makes sure that the interests of France are respected. Exactly. You have another one. It's I think in Alpha Conde or somewhere around there in Guinea.
So if you want to enjoy, you must comply, whatever they tell you to do.
Exactly. You must comply, even if that compliance
affects your people.
Affects your people. It doesn't matter. As long as America and the international capitalist industry get what it wants. But now, let's get back to the political system.
Let's go.
And its contradictions. The first contradiction of politics is, by the definition, the rule of the people. That means the people are the ones who must decide what has to be done in the country when it comes to economy, when it comes to business. All the major decisions must be done must be obviously approved by the people, but it's the rule of the people.
When they define democracy, it's just beautiful, but it doesn't work that way.
That's what I'm saying. That's the first contradiction, because they tell us that we are in democracy.
Governance by the people, for the people.
For the people, by the people.
Yes.
We only have a choice to elect pre-selected leaders, but we don't elect decisions that governs our nations. You know what governs the nation?
Come again. You don't do what?
We get the right to only elect pre-selected leaders.
Who pre-select these people?
The system itself.
The system selects a leader for us to vote for.
For sure, because you see, there's a difference between electing and selecting. When I'm electing a candidate that has been already selected, that is presented to me.
I am voting only 3 people.
Exactly.
I choose one.
100%. But the one who selects, he's the one who gives a mission.
But then the political parties develop these people to lead parties for us to vote for. Who select them apart from these political parties within our environment?
No, but the fundamental question you need to ask, who fund political parties?
So I want to find out who funds them.
Exactly. So the moment that you discover who fund NPP, NDP in Ghana, then you know who controls politicians there in Ghana. And I can give you, and this, and we have already spoken about it.
Those that fund the political parties decide who become the leader of the political party.
Exactly.
Do they have any agenda within that selection?
100%, because I don't select you if I don't have agenda with you. The one who selects, the one who gives agenda. Look, I'm selecting you. When you go there, this company must own the right to the gold of Ghana in this particular region. This company must own the rights of oil in Nigeria. And don't even worry, I'm going to give you some loan for you to implement this and this and this and that. But these are the conditions. Do this and don't do that. So we know, these are the things that happen in our world today. So the political system that we have.
So we are just voting for people that have been pre-selected for us.
Yeah. And the most important thing is that we don't vote for decisions. We vote for people. And we must understand what governs the nation is the decisions, which means the policies that are implemented about the economy, about the business world, about the infrastructure. Those policies are the ones that define the future of a country, not the personality that we have elected. But we only elect the person, but we don't elect the decisions that govern our lives every day. Because if a decision affects you, you have the right to be participant in that decision. So the question that I'm asking, all the policies that are being drafted in the parliament in Ghana, when do the common people, the citizens of Ghana, who are the guardians of a democratic system, supposedly, when do they intervene to amend those policies?
Okay, so we have the government system in Ghana. We have the parliament, which is the representatives from the various constituencies we have. So each constituency has a member of parliament to come and represent them. So in a nutshell, the decision from that person, the acceptance of that person is a decision of the people in his constituency. That's how it works in Ghana. But then
it's wrong.
Okay,
it's
tell
wrong.
us. But then he's representing you. So if he says yes, you have said yes. You voted the person to go represent you in parliament.
That's what I'm saying is wrong. This system, that means it's not the power of the people. Were the people consulted for whatever policy that...
No.
So
you only go there and vote for his party.
And okay, the sign is simple. For you to see that is a false. It doesn't work. Every time a major policy or whatever regulation is amended in the parliament, you see protest on the road. People are protesting against those policies. It means people are against those policies. How comes those policies got passed while the people are against those policies? Look, for example, in South Africa, as we're speaking right now. I have tried to discuss with many South Africans about, for example, LGBT.
Okay.
You will see that most of them, they don't agree with it. They find it funny. They find it, something that is against the culture. But it passed in the government. In the parliament.
Yes, the day I got here in the morning, Monday morning,
Yeah.
by the roadside, I saw two guys kissing.
Exactly.
Just by the wall from a nightclub, there were just two guys standing by the wall kissing.
You see? And if you ask common people, they will say they will feel it's kind of disgusting from many people according to what they say.
That's how I felt.
Yeah, but it passed in the parliament. Do you think if they have to put it in election for the South African population to elect, to vote for LGBT rights to be passed in South Africa, do you think it would pass? Couldn't pass. Why did it pass? Because it's the rule of those who are cooking behind the curtain. It's not the rule of the people.
So now it is no more the people of South Africa taking their own decisions. They've been
Everywhere.
They've been controlled.
Yeah. Even in America.
Yes, everywhere. So
Yeah.
that system is what helps them at the top to take decisions that will benefit them.
Exactly.
Than to benefit the people.
But they need to find a way
Can
to
this
justify.
change?
That's what we want. That is even why I'm wearing this T-shirt.
Okay. So what's this?
This is the African Continental Unity Party. So the system
African, let me see. African Continental Unity Party.
Yeah.
A political party?
Well, you can call it a political party, but it's more of a political movement, continent-wide. But it goes in every country. It transforms itself into a political party. That is the aim. And is to answer to your question, how can we change this?
Talk to me.
We need to come up with our own strategy of development. We cannot always implement the strategies of our oppressors to develop ourselves, because we know the aim of the oppressor is to keep us under his oppression or under his domination. So if we want to get rid of this domination that creates the oppression, we need to come up with our own institutions of development or our own strategies of development. And the ACUP is that one particular strategy on political line that really aims about the development of the people. You know, because we need to consider, politically speaking, we need to look at the world as being observed from different angles, from two angles principally. We have the angle of the elite, or the way that the elite observe the world. We have the angle of the masses, or the way that the masses or the common people observe the world. And most...
Is this not based on their level of education? You've mentioned the elites. What constitutes the elites is the schools they've been to, the kind of class they are in society. And the common people you're talking about probably never went to school, and they're low average kind of people in society. So is it not the same education system that you're going to, that produce these people?
No, I think that's that's not a right assumption. If you look in 1960s, when our countries got what is called independence, we had, for example, in the Congo, we had 8 graduates at university. About 15 million people, somewhere around there, we had only 8 graduates.
Ooh.
So this means this was a group of people who were not educated according to the system, as you said, but they were able to resist colonialism. Today we have millions of PhD degrees in the Congo, and every country. What do we do? So I don't think that the difference is about education, right? Because you may find out that what we call today education is actually miseducation, right? The problem is about the power. And the challenge of the masses is because we are unable to organize ourselves. You know, as Marcus Garvey said, that the only threat to black people is disorganization.
KABALA, what is ACUP doing? What actually are you ready to do to change the narrative?
We are ready and we are busy working in changing the political system, in changing the economic system.
How can you do this?
Well,
it sounds impossible.
Well, it sounds impossible until it's done, as Mandela said. All right?
Oh.
Some years ago, some hundreds years ago, if you had to think about flying in an aeroplane, it was going to be impossible. You could have been branded like a mad person, like a crazy person.
Lunatic.
You understand? And today, we are not only just flying in an aeroplane, but we are flying in spaceships that go out of the atmosphere and come back again. So there's nothing that is impossible that a human being can do. And if I have to rephrase Marcus Garvey, anything that a human being has done, another human being can undo them. The conditions in which we are today are not natural conditions of Africa.
Okay.
They are the conditions set up by people, and we also can undo them.
Okay, so every learned behavior, we counselors will say every learned behavior can also be unlearned. So
Exactly.
as the systems were imposed and practically pushed into people, we can also change it.
100%.
It took them 600 to change this, 600 years to change this. Is it over let's say over 105 centuries to do this? Is it possible?
Well, but
are you ready for this journey?
How many years did it take China to change it? You see, that's why I said from the beginning that the situation of Africa can change tomorrow, for example. It can change in 5 years, it can change in 10 years, and it may never change as well, because it takes only one thing, and that is the realization of our situation and beginning to do for ourselves what other people have been pretending to do for us. The problem we have in Africa today is because we have what is called over-reliance on the people who have no interest in seeing us in a better position, but we're relying on them to do for us what we are supposed to do for ourselves. That's why we are into the World Health Organization. We don't control it. We are at the UN. We don't control it. We don't even have one single African country which has a right of veto, right? We are into World Trade Organization. We don't control
World Bank.
World Bank. We are into all these institutions built by the oppressor, but we don't control them. And our reliance on these institutions is what makes us always prey of those who want something out of us. And
Are you not afraid, as you mentioned, some of the leaders that were eliminated because they were resisting the system, the American system, all the systems that were suppressing the people, trying to just get from us the natural resources? Are you not afraid of these institutions?
No, you see, you can kill a revolutionary, but you cannot kill the revolution. That's very important. I'm not afraid because, in fact, those very same people are the one who have inspired me to engage myself in the course of activities that I'm doing today. So people who have ignited in me the fire of revolution, most of them have ended up being killed, being excluded from the system or from the society, being unjustly actually exterminated. Marcus Garvey, Kwame Nkrumah, Thomas Sankara, Patrice Lumumba, all these people that we look at the
Muammar
end.
Gaddafi and co.
Exactly. Those are the one who ignites the fire in me of revolution. So I'm not afraid.
Let's look at religion.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is religion part of our woes in Africa? Do you agree to this?
Yeah, I think religion plays a very important in human lives, particularly in Africa. And I'm saying so because the majority of people in Africa, the last I checked, we had 40% of African people, 45% into Christianity, 40% into Islam. Already those two religions already have taken about 85% of African population. In the Congo, 80% is Christian, right? So the most important thing to every human being is what he believes in. And because these people believe into religion, therefore religion becomes a subject of interest to us who are revolutionaries. And we cannot successfully make this revolution working if we don't think or if we don't look into religion and come up with a change of mind. Because actually when we talk about revolution, it's about change of mind, change of values. People when we talk about
change
revolution,
concepts,
exactly,
what is not helping must be changed.
Yeah. So religion is very important, and we need to discuss about religion. It's very important.
Is religion affecting us as Africans?
Very much. It has affected us from day one.
What is our means of knowing the Creator, right?
Okay. Through religion, I don't think so. You are part of a Creator because He is also part of you. You see, it says all religion, all of them, they will tell you that from the beginning there was a Creator, right? And there was nothing else except the Creator. Now, everything else were created by the Creator. Simply means that things were created from the Creator because there was nothing else from the beginning. There was only Himself. There was no universe.
So He was supposed to create something.
Yeah. So He took from Himself. He created water. He took from Himself a part of Himself. He made trees. He took from Himself. He made human beings. So you are a part of human being. You are a part of the Creator as a human because you are an extension of Himself.
Okay.
So for you to get to know Himself, you don't have to go to any organized religion created by people and controlled by people for you to know something that is within you.
Okay, so God, the Creator, is within us.
It's part of you. You are part of Him. As I said, from the beginning, you see, this is a God from the beginning. There's nothing else here. But now from this God, you have the water, you have the sun, you have the land, you have the diamonds. It means everything that we see is extension of the Creator. And if we want to get to know the Creator, where do we supposed to go? Within ourselves, not into
So the
organized.
white man giving us a church like Anglican, which is an English church, the Presbyterian, the Methodist, and the other likes. Will you say the Jehovah's Witness, the Latter-day Saints, and all that? Will you say it's also part of the agenda to crush us?
Yeah, definitely. Starting from the beginning, when you look in 16th century, there was a man called John Hawkins, right? He was commissioned by Queen Elizabeth the first to come to Africa, and he came to Africa with a ship. That ship was called Good Jesus, right? And that ship is the first ship that England used to rip thousands of Africans from this land to be made slave. In that ship, African people were bound back to back like sardines, suffocating from one another. Some of them dying from the heart just stopped from functioning because of suffocation, the conditions in which they were actually parked in that ship. And the Atlantic Ocean is a biggest cemetery of our ancestors that we have never been able to celebrate or to actually do the ceremonies that we are supposed to do to honor them. Because every time they were dying, they were being thrown in the ocean. And even the shark could know that it didn't have to go look for food somewhere else. It had to follow only the ship, because from the ship came out a lot of food. So you see, that was the first sign of how religion was used in Africa. And
So that ship, what did they write on that ship?
Good Jesus.
Good Jesus.
Yes, the name of the ship that ripped African people from this land, that ripped African people from this land, was called Good Jesus. And we don't have to forget that some centuries ago, the Arabs did the same thing. Millions of African people were taken into custody by Arabs because in their book, the Qurans, justify black people as a slave. So religion from the setup has been the setback for African progress and African liberation, because psychologically, what religion, all of them, what they teach us is to be able to suffer peacefully.
Oh, so religion in Africa simply means suffering peacefully.
Exactly. You don't have to resist your suffering.
Is that why Kalman says that is the opium of the masses?
100%. You got it. Every Sunday you go there to renew. You come and then you suffer peacefully. You don't have to protest, even though the God you're praying to gave you a lot of land. 60% of arable land in the world is in Africa. You know that, right? He gave us diamonds. He gave us coltan. He gave us all these things. And we are unable to live or to enjoy them. And we are suffering. But when we go into religion, they tell us, don't worry. Your inheritance is in heaven. Where there's a gold, where there's honey and milk, you will enjoy
heaven
there.
And earth?
Say again?
Do you believe in heaven and hell?
No.
You don't believe there is no heaven?
No, there's no heaven.
hell.
There's not nothing here called heaven. And there's no even heaven. There's no up, there's no down. When you go out of the earth, when you go out of the planet Earth, what you see is a planet in the midst of emptiness. There's no up, there's no down. So there's no heaven.
Wow. So tell me
Heaven should be right here where we are
So
living.
what should we practice as far as Africans in the area of knowing God?
We need to practice spirituality.
What is spirituality? What is religion?
Okay. Religion.
I'm asking basic
For
questions
sure.
now. I just
No,
want
100%. Let me tell you what religion is. You see, I want to explain something so that you can understand the context. You see, every people have the lenses through which they look at the reality. You know, we select what we see, we organize, we interpret, and then we produce the result after that.
Okay.
For example, when you see an accident happening somewhere, two people are sitting there observing the same scene. When you ask them, they will give you different encounters.
Yes.
Everyone will have his own story.
Interpretation, what they saw.
Exactly.
The guy was not even watching there, but when you ask him,
Yeah.
he can explain vividly what happened.
Yeah. And number two, if I come to you and tell you, Brother Nyasa, I like you, and I say, please go tell the same thing to the next person should tell the next person, and the same thing goes through 100 people.
Noise will enter the barrier, the communication line.
Exactly, and it will come back totally different thing from what I told you. It's the same thing. It's part of human being, because we select the information according to our own predisposition. We interpret, we organize and interpret differently. It's the same thing with God, this thing of God. It's true that sometimes people get inspiration from the divine about any particular way of life. But those people will interpret that inspiration according to their own culture, their own selection, their own perception, their own understanding, and that whatever religion is created after that will be embedded in the culture of that people. So, if you go to take the religion from that people without separating what is the culture of the people and what is the spiritual element of that, whatever message, you are like a person who goes to a shop, you buy a bread in a plastic, you want to eat that bread with the plastic without removing it from plastic. And that's what we have been doing. That's why now, for you to be a good Muslim, you must abandon your African name to take an Arab name, because that's the name that God is pleased with.
As anointed.
Yeah, because your African name was cursed by Allah. So you must take a name like Abdul, must discard your African name because it's not accepted by Allah. And
Ibrahim.
for you to pray, exactly. For you to pray, you must pray in Arabic. You must say Allah Akbar. You shouldn't pray in Twi or in one of our local languages, because Allah doesn't listen to that. That's the culture you are taking out from those people. And by practicing other people's culture, you are suffocating your own culture.
So what is spirituality then?
Spirituality is a relationship, simple relationship between you and the nature.
And nature.
Exactly.
That is spirituality.
That's spirituality. And when I'm talking
How
about
can
nature,
we relate to nature? You mentioned nature. What is nature before you come to this? How can we relate to nature? As you're saying, if practicing the relationship between us and nature, what is nature then?
well, nature is everything. Everything that you see, the trees, the mountains,
trees
the
cannot
wind.
talk.
They talk, but we don't listen.
I've not seen a tree talking before.
You need to be trained to listen when they
Okay.
talk. You see, okay. Do you know why when you go today, when you go in our village, deep in Africa, in our villages, you will see that before somebody can chop down a tree, he will make some prayers in front of that tree. Why do they make prayers? They consider tree as a living being, as a part of they don't just chop down the
But you
trees.
see, science even says that trees are living things.
No, well, of course, science is beginning to understand now things that our ancestors understood long time ago.
Okay.
That's one thing that we need to understand. I mean, let me put this in correct context. European world is getting the understanding of something that we understood long time ago in Africa. Firstly, they are the ones who enslaved people, who reduced the human beings to the condition of animals. And they get, as time goes, as they grew up, they gain understanding of what is human being is. They come up in 1948 with what we call the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. While in 1300s, we have what is called Charte de Mandelaire, Mandelaire by Kankamusa in Mali. We had what is called the Declaration of Human Rights. You see, they come with that 1948, just last century, after they have killed thousands of people. That means they grew up. They are the one who mistreated their women. Now they are pushing for the right of women. They are the one who have destroyed the environment. Now they are pushing for environment protection. So, in reality, European people and their sciences are the one who are getting understanding now.
Of what our fathers knew.
Exactly.
Our fathers were not hunting for gold, but they are
100%.
protecting the environment. Our fathers were not eating poison. As you
Exactly.
They were not poisoning the land.
Yeah.
They know the land will play them back again if they poison them. So the white man is now understanding.
Understanding that now late, but he says the one who civilized the world. When you go to Congo, you see there's an area called Tenke Fungurume in south of the Congo.
Tenke Fungurume.
Yeah. Before, there were two big mountains in that area. Those two mountains have been there for centuries. I mean, since the creation, let's put that there. There was a national company, mining company called Jekamin. Was working there, producing coltan, producing cobalt and all this stuff. It has never touched those mountains, taking in sustainable way whatever it needed. Now, in 2005, they sold that concession to an American company. Within 5 years, those two mountains were wiped out. Now, the point is, our ancestors, as I said, nature can communicate to us, but we don't understand. Our ancestors knew that these mountains, they regulate the wind to protect the towns. Now, when you remove those mountains, the wind can just blow and brings the flood and all other conditions that we didn't know before, and people start dying. Nature speaks to
So
us.
after removing it, that's what happened.
Exactly. Exactly. So the white people, they don't know. They are coming to understanding things that we understood long time ago. That's the reality. That's the bottom line, because they are the ones who are now pushing for human rights.
How can we change 80% of African population that believe in Christianity and Islamism? How can we change this? Is it going to be that easy to change the mindset of them about Christianity and Islam?
I think it all begins from the leadership that we have in place. The current leadership that we have in Africa now is still a leadership that is being imposed on us by those who don't want the interest of Africa to go to the African people. Because a fish begins to rot from the head. So the leadership is important as much as well as the people as well. But overall, as we discussed about education, education is the only way, the only means we can change our society. And that's the reason why it is even said somewhere that education is a second nature. Education that you go through becomes your second nature.
What is education?
As we said from the beginning, comes from educo in Latin. And when you take it that educo in English, it becomes educe, developing from within, bringing.
So if I have a child in the house, I need to teach the child how to brush the teeth. I'm educating the child, right?
To
brush the teeth. I'm educating the child, right? If I tell the child how to respect, I'm educating the child, right?
Yes.
So he's not looking at a certain book somewhere, but the daily practice things we learn every day is education, right? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, all right. I'm not saying that books are wrong, right?
I understand.
Yeah, but it's all important to know who are you reading and what are you reading.
I want to read you. so what is your strategy as a let's say a movement, ACUP? Tell us now, what's the strategy? This is a serious movement across Africa. It's going to be one political party. The same party is in Ghana, it's in South Africa, it's in Rwanda, it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So how what's the plan? What are you doing now?
Okay, we want to implement the people's solution. As I was explaining before, that there's a solution of the elite, there's also a solution of the people.
Okay.
But for a long time, we have been functioning based on the solutions of the elite, right? The solution of the people have never been able to be implemented. Even if sometimes the people or the masses initiate some kind of change, social change, that change get to be hijacked by the elites and appropriate themselves to the benefits of that change. That's what you can see from, for example, the Russian Revolution. It was ignited, of course, by the masses, but it was hijacked by the elites. The French Revolution, the same thing. So we need the people revolution or the people solution this time, because the solution of the elites is all about massive exploitation of the land that create the conditions that we are facing today. It creates inequality, even though the world today is about 200 trillion US dollars. The world population just reached 8 billion, and the world economy or the world is worth 200 trillion. If you take 200 trillion divided by 8 billion, you have possibility to make every single person in this world a billionaire, if not a millionaire. So what is that money being invested in what that money is being invested? It's being invested in games such as financial markets. They don't produce real stuff. It's about playing around with the money, but it's not about production of real goods that people need in order to.
Let me ask this: is Africa ready for these things you're saying, for this movement? Because you can't just do it in a vacuum. People must be ready, because if your party is ready to change this concept, is Africa itself as a continent, the people, the young ones, are we ready to embrace the system, to change the narrative? You go around and do and explain to people what you are about. Are they ready for this?
Well, I think it's difficult. Change is something that does not come without a price. You know, any change comes with a cost. Because for you to change, you need to leave one thing to go for another thing. The difficulty that we have today is that we are a generation of TikTok, generation of Instagram, and
Facebook,
YouTube, right? And
social media.
many young people are not ready to abandon these things that have been made to make them more stupid to look at the reality and begin doing something different. But it's our responsibility to teach our people, to make them aware of the reality. That's why we're talking about mobilization, talking about education within the ACUP. It's very important. But I don't say that everything is bad at this moment, because when you look just recently, when Muammar Gaddafi was killed, the majority of people in Africa acclaimed. I mean, they were happy. They said, no, a dictator is killed, because the Western media told us that Muammar Gaddafi was a dictator, was a bad person. But just recently, there was a war in Ethiopia, and the Western media were trying to push the same narrative of saying that the Prime Minister of Ethiopia is killing people, is involved in massacre, in exterminating the masses and stuff like that. But when you see the reaction around the continent was totally different. People didn't buy that narrative anymore. People actually were supporting Ethiopia. This is to say that we are waking up to the reality that we have been lied for a long time. When people are killed in France, we post on our social media, I'm France, I'm Charlie, I'm this.
Is there a wave of awakening?
It's a good sign.
Do you see the sign of awakening of Africa?
Exactly, because a lie cannot stay forever. You see, there's a story of a naked lie and a truth. You know, one day a naked lie and a truth were at the river, and a lie, so a naked lie, a naked truth and a lie. And the lie told the naked truth that, you know what, let's jump in the water and swim. Let's see if you are able to swim. Now the truth jumped in the water, start swimming. Now the lie picks up the clothes of the truth and running with the clothes of the truth in the town. And people were looking and say, oh, that's the truth running there. Now the naked lie now, because it was in the water, was running, chasing the lie. I'm sorry, the naked truth was now running behind the lie to catch up and take its clothes. Now, people observing again say, oh, now that is the naked truth that is following now the lie to catch up with them. So what I'm saying is that a lie, no matter how it stays, it will get to the point where people discover that this is a lie and it cannot stay. People will change it.
Why are you starting the political party in Ghana?
Well, I'm not starting a political party in Ghana. I need to
I'm not saying
rectify.
you. Why as a movement, not you as a person?
Yeah, because the constitution, I just want to clarify that the constitution of Ghana does not allow a foreign person to come and involve in a political party in Ghana.
I'm talking about a movement.
As a
I
youth
know
movement.
You have
Okay.
other people there.
Well, not just in Ghana, but everywhere on the continent. But Ghana particularly, Ghana is very important because we must understand that Ghana is a house of the current pan-africanism as we're speaking now. And we don't have to forget the message that was left to us by Kwame Nkrumah. He said, as long as other countries are not independent, Ghana is not independent. It means no one should be left behind, right? When it comes to this struggle for liberation and emancipation of Africa, it must be done in every place where African people are. But we should start with Ghana because Ghana is the house of modern Pan-Africanism as we're speaking.
So the movement is starting a political party now. Are they in the process of registering?
Yes, I've been informed that in Ghana, our colleagues there are in the process of getting the party registered.
Are they going to contest in the coming election, 2024 election?
Well, that's the ideal picture, but it would depend on themselves. As Ghanaian people, they will determine where they want to go with the movement. But the ultimate game is to eventually achieve what we call the liberation and emancipation of Africa.
Thank you very much, KABALA. But then this book is just super. I've seen headlines, I've seen content, and I'm enjoying it. Where it all begins. Please get this book. It's a super book.
Thank you.
It's called what?
Expropriation of the mind
without
compensation.
Yeah. I could see headlines, stuff like what is justice? I see identity. Who is Jesus?
Yeah.
One day we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and people need to know who is Jesus.
You don't know Jesus?
Many people don't know him.
But you know him?
Yes.
So you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, a few things that people don't know.
So my next conversation here in South Africa with KABALA is going to be who Jesus is. This will be an interesting topic. Thank you very much for watching. Do you have your social media handles that you want people to follow? If you want to buy your books, where they get to buy and all that?
It's on Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
So the title is Expropriation of the Mind Without Compensation.
Even by name, people can check.
Also, you can do Hard Peas KABALA.
Yeah.
Go and just Google that name. Search that. Is it where do you get it?
Amazon.
Amazon.
And
you can do Hard Peas KABALA.
Yeah.
And this one is also called What Time Is It?
The question to the African millennials.
The question to the African millennial.
Yeah.
Please, I beg you, KABALA H. John.
Yeah.
Remember, what time is it? This is also there in Amazon, right? You can get it to buy.
Yeah.
Your contact. You put your contact?
Yes. It's okay. +7.
Okay.
74 65 77 264.
Okay. So we can call you. Social media handles?
Yes, I'm on Facebook by KABALA Hardpiece John. Obviously, you get me on Facebook.
Okay.
I'm also on Instagram. Mainly, that's where I navigate.
Apart from this, what do you do again?
I am a community development strategist.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm also having background in engineering studies.
Okay.
And I should also mention that I'm a communication member of the African Continental Unity Party.
Okay.
So basically, that's what I can say about myself. I'm author of 2 books.
So do you do public speaking in that? Do you do public speaking?
Yeah, I do conferences. My recent conference was on the 5th of November. It was about the pan-africanism for business development in the 21st century. I did that as part of a free-minded. Yes, right here in South Africa.
Well, let me say this to my senior inside the USA. Greetings to you. We salute you so much. He's the CEO of Doc Palm, Doctor in Your Palm. Greetings to you and the whole team in Ghana. We thank you so much. Kamara, we salute you and all the members that have come together to build Africa. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for having you on my platform.
I'm glad. Thank you very much for your invitation. You made all the way from Ghana to SA.
Yeah.
This is what we call African progress.
Yeah.
Nice
meeting you. Nice meeting you.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. One love.
For sure.
So this is how we bring the interview to an end. My name is Nyan Sabuakwa. Please remember to subscribe to the channel.
Please,
subscribe. Subscribe is important. Yeah. We're going everywhere in the world, but then Africa is our focus. We're going every part of Africa. And this is so important to know who we are, to bring our culture to the people. There's so much I'm bringing from South Africa. I have done 15 interviews so far. 15 so far. We are still on air, speaking to different people with different ideologies, different understanding. So thank you so much for watching. See you again. Bye for now.